Welcome, good morning. This is another special day. This is Friday, and today we're ending the week with our CEO and founder of DEGA, Carlos Rene. Carlos, how are you? How's this morning looking for you?
Hey there, Freak. Looking good, man. A little confused there because I thought the space was an hour earlier like we used to, but yeah, all great, man.
So you're ready for an hour, but I'm glad it's not my mistake. You asked me to move it an hour.
Yeah, it's on me, it's on me. I got confused. But it's all good, man. Looking forward to this space today. You told me you had some pretty interesting tech questions, and I always love to talk about tech. So let's get rolling.
Yeah, today our topic top 10 technologies that Carlos is looking at, his thoughts, and where the world is going. But remember, we have our daily challenge. Every day you have a chance to win 1,000 DEGA tokens by supporting us on Twitter. And the idea is to help us grow. We cannot grow without you. So let your friends, family, everyone you're connected with about DEGA and what we're doing. It's worth it. It's something we need. At least my personal opinion is it's something we must do and we must build. So help us out, spread the word, follow us in our socials, come to our Discord, and then it's another reminder that right after this, we got the fucking Freaky Fridays, and it's fun in our Discord. So I will do a proper invitation at the end, but let's kick it, Carlos. So you kind of pick like 10 technology topics to talk about it today. So the idea is to go by one, explore your thoughts, explore what you think, and of course we got to start with our home, with our natural, how do you say, yeah, our natural ecosystem, which is blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and how blockchain technology and crypto are forming the economic infrastructure of the metaverse in the video.
Yeah, so basically, that's actually, straight to the point of what this technology is about, right? It's something that in let's say before we had blockchain, we could move information freely, right? But now, thanks to blockchain, we can move value freely, right? So that's what three is about, right? It's moving value. That value can be something like a protocol utility, right? Like Ethereum itself, or like Bitcoin, which is pure capital in in the most, let's say, thermodynamical sense of the word, right? Because Bitcoin is generated with energy. So, or in when we're doing NFTs, in that case, we're moving, we could say, culture, right? Because it can be art, it can be a collectible, it can be something to make a memory out of an event, right? So you get an NFT because we're in an event. So NFTs are about cultural value, right? So what they allow us to do is break down the barriers of the world in terms of being able to freely transfer this value. Transfer and even, let's say, abstract it away, right? Because a lot of the times we say, oh, we're creating value. No, the crypto itself, be it the token or an NFT, that doesn't create value. In and of itself, it's not value, right? It is an abstraction of something else that provides value, right? So, for example, in Bitcoin, the token represents, the coin represents the power that was used to secure the Bitcoin network, proof of work, and Bitcoin itself is that abstraction, right? So you're getting Bitcoin because you're investing energy in proof of work to secure the Bitcoin ledger. So the security of the decentralized ledger itself is abstracted away and created and given to you through Bitcoin. In Ethereum, it's about the utility, right? All the dApps that you have on top of it. The same thing with Cardano. It's about what people build on top of it. So the value of the network is abstracted away in ADA, right? So that's what blockchain allows us to do. right? Now, currently in the digital world, like a lot of people that live in the United States or in Europe or in some other advanced nations like Japan and even the most urbanized zones of China, right? A lot of you may be asking, like, well, why do we even need blockchain, dude? I can just use a Venmo or WeChat if you're in China, or some other application like PayPal, right? So first off, like most of the world can't access those systems, right? Like you'd be surprised that most humans don't have access to that level of financial instruments, right? They can access freely WhatsApp, right? They can access freely Instagram and Facebook, but so they have access to the information side of things, but not the value transfer of things. So that's what blockchain allows us to free, to unbound, because now you can just open up a system, generate your wallet, and you can begin to receive payment, or you can begin to create art and you can get paid for that, or you can mint an NFT or whatever, right? So now the point is that this technology frees the world, not only in the information side of things, but also in the value and capital transfer side of things. And we're still in a very, very early stage, right? A lot of people are kind of like desperate, like when blockchain mass adoption is going to come. And I'm like, guys, we're actually moving really, really fast, right? And people like to say, well, email moved fast. And I'm like, no, it didn't. Okay, it did not. The first email was invented in the 70s, right? And then some people were using it in the 80s. Then companies began to adopt it, like what, it was second half of the 90s, maybe. There were still people asking what the internet was in 1994. And now, and even after that, right, between the moment that, let's say, my grandma used her first email, which was through Gmail, I think it was like something like 2014. We're talking like 40 years, right? So between the time it was invented to the time my grandma used it, right? If you want to define mass adoption by that term, right? 40 years happened, right? Because a lot of people, that's the argument they give against blockchain. It's like, oh, my grandma's never going to use it. No, she's not going to use it now, right? But she will use it someday when it's so simple to use that she won't even realize that she's using it, right? When she doesn't even care about what blockchain she's on. She's just sending and receiving value. So that's kind of like the importance of this technology, right? The freedom of value across the world, and giving the capability to people in emerging markets and underdeveloped nations to be able to monetize what they can create on their phones.
Dude, and for me it represented kind of like a revelation as a creator when I got into blockchain and crypto and web3. It was kind of like someone opened the gates of heaven. It was so the value we were creating in the creator industry, it wasn't valued. So it wasn't there was we didn't have a real tool to monetize our talents and stuff like that, and the old systems were not working.
Yeah.
So when I met this, and we're going to talk about it at the end because that's my last question actually, your perspective on that, it was kind of like it swallowed me completely. So I totally go there, and this connects with my next question topic, which is virtual reality, augmented reality, the role of all these immersive experiences and technologies in gaming, the metaverse, and in our lives. And if you could connect it to your vision of liquid reality, which I love, it would be great.
So you're saying what you're asking? What's the impact of virtual?
And what's your perspective? What are your thoughts of these technologies in the future we're building?
So these things are going to bring us back to something that we're already used to, right? So humans have evolved in a 3D world, right? Like we're not a 2D universe, right? So we're used to doing things, physically. That's why a lot of people say that remote work isn't the same, and they're right in many aspects, right? Like you don't really need it for a lot of work you do, but it's not the same in the sense that when you're interacting with people, you're seeing them in 3D. You can pick up stuff, you can write on a whiteboard, and then I can write something on a whiteboard, and I can pick a piece of paper and then show you something there. And it's this dynamic of being able to feel in a 3D spatial environment that you feel that it's lacking when you're working in a remote setting, right? And it's perfectly natural to feel that way because you are a human in a 3D world. So part of that is what these technologies are going to bring back, right? The capability to be able to see things in 3D, to be able to interact with them, to be able to, let's say, perceive things in a different perspective, right? And I believe there's going to be new types of applications and UX interfaces that are going to be developed that are going to be 3D native. Like one of the things that I see right now in most of the demos that are being showcased by companies, even by Apple, which is a very creative and product-oriented company, they're just taking 2D interfaces and slapping them on 3D. It's like, oh, you can see 3 screens. Yeah, dude, I can see 3 screens right now. I just go and get another monitor. It'll cost me like a few bucks, and I got 3 screens. Like, why is that an advantage, right? So, you know, we're still kind of like seeing where we can take it, right? How we can push the envelope in that sense, right? So that's kind of like the perspective that I think that most of the product companies are lacking, right? They're still just trying to grab 2D apps and put them in a floating 3D VR headset. So that's something that I'm looking forward to in terms of how it connects with the vision of liquid reality. And for those who want the in-depth explanation of that, they can check out the space we did yesterday, where we talked a lot about that. But just very quickly, you know, liquid reality is about enabling content to become an experience that is boundless across devices, and that leverages AI technologies and other systems to be able to be multiple forms at the same time, right? It can be a 2D chat in one place, and it can be a 3D avatar somewhere else. So liquid reality is kind of like the idea of unbounding, you know, VR, AR, and your current 2D screens from their limitations, right? And allowing you to interact with them seamlessly. So if somebody had, because for example, the Apple VR headset, or well, you know, the Apple Vision headset, it's very expensive right now, right? So if it is going to sell out, to be clear, right? Like if case somebody thinking, oh, you know, it's so expensive, dude, it'll sell out. Okay, it's Apple. They'll sell out. People will be fighting for that very expensive device. However, a lot of people won't have access to it, right? And yes, Meta is making cheaper options and so forth. But even then, a lot of people, I'm talking billions, won't have access to that, right? So it's kind of like a struggle if you're in a VR headset and I just have like $100 mobile phone, right? So liquid reality is about allowing those two to engage each other, right? By using open protocols, open standards, and making it seamless for them, right? They don't have to go and say, oh, I gotta get this plugin or download this app, or I need to set up my phone in this way so that I can interact with my friend that has a VR headset. No, it's just you open the app and the systems already seamlessly integrate and flow with each other, right? So that's kind of like where that vision would come in, right? And that's kind of like what I see that we're gonna head towards eventually, and that's when the real power of these systems will begin to shine, right? Like me designing things in 3D, sending them over to you. You open up your phone, you throw it in an AR 3D set, and now you can walk around it in your living room. But you and I never had to, hey, you know, what format are you using? Hey, can you push it to this app? Like, no, it's just like how we share Google Drive files, right? Like if I do something in Docs, I share it to you. You can open it in Word, or you can even open it in Open Office or any of the other systems out there. So we just send files, we just share content we don't think about it, and it'll get taken care of for us by the computer systems.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with VR, AR, and those things. And one of the things I tell my friends is give it to a kid and see how they use it. And the experience with Martina, my 12-year-old, is she's making friends and they're creating connections in a way that is different than using Zoom or Google Meets. Is they're interacting, they go out in adventures, they play together. She tells me about them. Of course, I take care of who she's like relating to and talking to, but it's a connection that she wouldn't be able to do if she was only in Chia, which is a small rural town outside of Bogota.
Mm-hmm.
She's talking to kids about programming and creating those connections. And that doesn't happen in Google Meet. That doesn't happen in Discord. That happens in that place because somehow you said it. We are we are 3D minds and 3D interactions. So even though I've created great friendship, but dude, me and you to meet, really meet, you came to my house, so you travel all the way from Costa Rica to Colombia,
Yeah.
and so I love this technology and what it's going, and that's why it's also like DEGA is one of the, for me, stepping stones into this future, and I thank you for that, for creating that.
My
the
pleasure.
next the next connection here, Carlos, is the how is AI and machine how are AI and machine learning playing in this whole scenery? How does it look in your head? How does it connect with this AR blockchain and everything we already talked about? And where do you think it's gonna take us?
Mm-hmm. So what we call AI, right? Right now, we keep pushing kind of like the goalposts, right? Like we've been using AI for a long time, right? Everybody here, since you started using things like spam filters, since you started using Google Maps, all of those systems are using forms of AI, right? In its more general, broader definition, right? What we call AI today, it's kind of like generative models, like Midjourney or like OpenAI, which are very large neural network systems that generate things, right? And that's what we're calling AI now. But you know, we've had other tools that are do classify as AI systems, right? So they've been here for a while, right? And just like how you use Google Maps, right, and you don't even realize that you're using AI, that's kind of like the ultimate goal of AI, right? To be able to become invisible and just be integrated into everything you do. Another great example is electricity itself. It's a brilliant innovation, right? It really set humanity apart in the sense of becoming a new type of civilization and a new type of superorganism as well. So being able to tap into the power of AI, that's also going to turn us into a next level of society, right? You could look at it in a certain way as an extension, as like another layer on top of your brain, because your brain is composed of different modules, right? And some of them are in charge of your instincts, right? The need for food, for sleep. You can't control this, right? Like you feel hungry, you feel the need to sleep. And then there's other sections that are more about your self-awareness, right? Your consciousness, the capability to see and understand the world, to be able to plan ahead, to be able to make simulations in your head, right? That's what you're doing when you're planning or when you're using your imagination. You're simulating the world. It's like if I do this, then that'll happen. If I do that, this will happen. So that's like a next level, right? And then now AI is another level on top of that. It's like a layer of intelligent systems that are going to be automating things for you, right? Like just like a good example is a spam filter, right? So it handles a lot of the information coming your way. It says this is trash, this is trash, this is trash, this is a good email. It sends it to you. This is trash, this is trash, this is a good email, and so forth, right? So we're gonna take that to the next level, right? There's a lot of use cases already popular. Of course, everybody here has heard of self-driving cars. So you just jump on your car, you say where you want to go. Right now, you have to like your brain has to handle that, right? Like you need to be self-aware. You can't be sleepy. You can't be distracted, right? You need to be focused on the act of driving, right? But then in the future, you'll just get on there and it'll take you where you need to go. It'll handle all the complexities for you. And in terms of what we're doing in gaming, right? A lot of the things that we handle ourselves right now when we create these immersive experiences will be provided to us by AI, right? Like we've already seen how powerful Midjourney is or how powerful Stable Diffusion is. And imagine that for 3D items, for 3D worlds, for dialogue, for character generation. And in case somebody wants to see like a little bit of how that would look, I'd recommend watching the last season of Westworld. It wasn't that good of a last season, to be honest, but that's not the point. The point is that there's a moment there where they're showing a storytelling tool. There's a moment there when the creator is like, oh well, there's a girl, and then the AI creates a girl, and then she's in her house, and then she's doing this, and she has a dad, and she's thinking about this and that, and then she's like describing the story, and the AI system is just generating the items, the world, and structuring the whole narrative into a playable system, right? And that's where AI is going to go on every level, right? It's going to give you a next layer of processing so that your other systems, right, your instinct, your self-awareness, don't have to focus on doing certain tasks that you do have to do today, right? And many of those things are going to happen under the hood. Yesterday, we kind of touched based on this as well. And when those things are happening under the hood, you're just gonna get them done, right? Things are just gonna come your way that you need them, and you're not even have to you're not deciding yourself that you need them, right? And this is already happening with a lot of the apps that we're using, right? Like when you open TikTok and you're seeing a content there, that was chosen by an AI system. You didn't choose it, right? Because if I gave you like a repository with all the TikTok videos that exist, there's no way you could find what you need, right? So that's kind of like where we're going, right? Like these systems that are just bringing things to you, making it readily available, automating tasks for you so that you don't have to put your own brain energy into it, and making your life kind of smoother in that way. Obviously, this has positive implications and negative implications, right? But that would be like another session just to discuss all of that.
Thank you. I'm obsessed with AI and where it's gonna take us, and hopefully we can create an abundant world with it. And I want to remember everyone in our audience. The questions are open. You can ask in the chat any question related to the today's topic or related to DEGA. Anything you want, please write it down. We will try to answer all of them here. If not, we will answer them by text or in our Discord. Carlos, so the next topic is one of your favorite topics, and I think is the one we waited for a long time to start talking about that. And Apple brought it to the table, and is spatial computing. So I don't know, it's understanding the importance of spatial computing in the metaverse and Web3 games, and how it enables the interaction with digital objects in a physical space.
Yeah, I mean, spatial computing is just the processing, right, through several sensors of the physical environment, right, and then mixing it with simulations in 3D worlds in the computer. So, spatial computing in and of itself isn't an end, right? It's a means towards an end, right? So, spatial computing is what enables VR and AR systems to be able to integrate into the space that you're in, right? So you need to have spatial awareness for your AR systems to project the 3D items into them. So that's kind of like what that's about. But if you ask me, like that's a very technical and in-depth conversation. It's not something too much of a product thing, right? Like it's more, in general, I would just leave it at the fact that it's the capability to understand and process the environment so that you can integrate digital assets into them.
So just tell me what's got you excited about it.
Just the fact that it's getting more compressed, it's getting more easier and faster to process. So instead of needing massive GPUs and computing power, now these headsets like Apple and even the ones Meta is building, they can in very small chips have the capability to process that information and interact with, and allow you to interact with it. So it'll be really exciting when it gets into the form factor of normal glasses, right? Like you just pick up glasses and like Tony Stark in Iron Man, right? So that's kind of like where I believe it'll be going.
Nice. Okay, so the next one is on the topic of 5G and edge computing. So these I know nothing. So, but it's kind of like how is this gonna impact us? And talking about DEGA and Web3 gaming, Metaverse, and all that.
For us, that's kind of like just another form factor, right? Like imagine how today, obviously, we got to build for mobile phones, we got to build for laptops, we got to build for desktops. Soon enough, with all of these headsets coming out, we're building for that. So as new devices that allow you to kind of like bridge this physical and virtual world come about, we'll have to interact with them, right? So if people are making haptic gloves or using some other type of system that allows people to engage with digital information, we just got to integrate it into the pipeline. Now, for us specifically at DEGA, we live in the infrastructure layer, right? So for us, it's all about protocols, all about information. That last, let's say, that last mile of systems integration will probably work with existing companies to integrate that, but that's not going to be our focus per se.
Okay, and for humanity and the impact it's gonna have in communication and changing and for exchanging information at higher speeds and stuff like that. Being, I don't know, what is 5G bringing to the table?
I mean, the relevance of 5G and subsequent technologies is the capability to interconnect the world, right? So, for example, many countries didn't go through landlines. They went straight up to mobile phones, right? That's called leapfrogging. If they had to do landlines, many of the countries that today are connected would not, right? They would still lack phones. They would still lack internet because it's a very expensive physical endeavor. Whereas setting up a few antennas is much simpler, right, than having to move urban settings and infrastructure to get landlines across. So the same thing is going to happen with the new technologies that are being invented in telecom. So let's say most of the world right now is still using a lot of optical fiber, right, to push a lot of information. But you got new projects like Starlink from Elon Musk, and there's other companies also building constellations for telecoms. So with those systems, we can interconnect many places that are very hard to access and set up antennas there and use this new type of high bandwidth standards to be able to push content there, right, and push information and enable new experiences. Because if you have a very low bandwidth, then you're at a disadvantage, right? So this technology is about equalizing access to the information world and to the capital world, right? So through the internet and blockchain, we can now um, allow people in underdeveloped nations and emerging markets to compete with the most advanced and sophisticated countries.
So it will be a matter of also opportunities because right now I'm like, I like to live away from the city, but I'm limited by the cable network. So I actually have maps of the networks that, all the different providers have. And that's how far I can go. So whenever they extend the network, I can go further.
Yeah.
And the further I get to a city, the happier I am, but I'm limited. So, and I don't, is this thinking schooling and education for people far away, it's kind of like
Yeah.
impossible, to be at the same level. So Ah, yes, this is something key. The next topics are deep into, I don't know, the core of a lot of the things that are being built in Web3 and blockchain. And one of them is digital identity and security in the metaverse. And how is that going to be managed? And where do you see this? Do you see it as something important or not? Or how's your perspective on that?
Yeah, there's two ways to go about that, right? Like there's some things, some use cases that require just identifying that you're a human, right? That you're not a bot, or at least reducing that risk. So we're already in partnership with an identity company. It hasn't been announced yet, but we'll get to that in a few weeks probably. And the reason for that is because many systems will require it as well for compliance, right? Like we do live in a physical world, right? Like every company is operating under a given nation's jurisdiction. And by any means, we're not incentivizing people to say, like, don't care about the laws in your country, right? Like, you might not agree with them and whatnot, but, it is what it is, right? So we got to be compliant with the societies that we live in, right? And many of them, for many use cases, will require you to have proper identification of who your customers are, right? So, in that note, the key challenge is how do we enable this without risking people's data, right? And to be fair, that's still an open challenge, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of companies proposing solutions. There's some that seem very good to me in that sense, but there's yet to be one that has reached a considerable, let's say, amount of users and that has validated its capabilities to protect their data while remaining compliant, right? So on ours, I think it is important. I don't know how important, right? Like, how at what level of relevance it is, in the sense that a lot of people are just going to keep using the current way to identify their users, right? They'll literally just ask you to upload your data, they'll manage it in a central repository with all the risks that we already know that we face. Um, but if people move forward with that and they still want to risk it, that's their choice, I guess. Um, but I would say, personally, my perspective is that it is very much relevant. I would try myself to build out systems as much as possible without requiring like KYC. Not because I'm against it per se, per definition, just because I see it as very risky, right? Like we at DEGA, for example, we're interested in building blockchain technology and gaming system. Right? We're not interested in collecting people's data. Like we have, like that only represents risk for us. Like it represents the fact that we're not responsible for securing that data. So we definitely won't be doing identity solutions. We'll be working with other companies that are solely focused on that and that provide as much privacy and security as we can possibly expect to get with the current set of technologies. So that's kind of where we stand as a company and as an ecosystem. But I know that other organizations that are doing finance, they're far more reliant on this type of systems, right? If they want to operate freely, right, in different countries, which everybody does, right? The ideal situation for decentralized finance is not to live in the shadows, right? Like to be afraid that your neighbors or your government are going to know that you have DeFi systems and that'll get you in trouble. That is not the ideal. The ideal is to be able to freely and openly use your crypto, be it, Cardano, Polkadot, Bitcoin, whatever, without, serious repercussions and to minimize the risk of your privacy being leaked out. So how do we get that done? Honestly, for me, it's still an open question, right? I don't know the answer to that one. But again, we're working with companies that are solely 100% focused on that. So hopefully we'll get that solved in a few months or years.
Can't wait for that announcement. It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be an important one. But the other topic is one that is this goes be beyond my knowledge, because one of the things that I always say is people talk about metaverse and metaverses and different spaces. So it's like the meta is the, whatever, how many metaverses, or like constricted in small metaverses and stuff like that. But nothing's going to happen until you have interoperability. And how is that going to happen? When is this going to happen? Or how are you seeing this coming to a reality? Because it's not, the web wasn't the web until it became open and everyone could connect and create. I
Mhm.
think it's something similar for the metaverse.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would just say is what everybody needs is just patience, right? Just honestly, things take time to get done, especially when we're talking about a whole bunch of people around the world, each with their own concepts, their own ideas, working towards something. But it's just a matter of time, right? This is going to happen. It is happening already under certain systems, but we just got to be patient, right? It's not going to be a very quick thing. For example, in case anybody wants to see like a real example of this, you can go to the Aavegotchi project. We met them at Rare Evo. I have already been following Aavegotchi for quite some time, but I didn't realize that how well the project is doing. So these guys have like little ghosts that they created as NFTs, and they have different skills and power ups and stuff. And their ecosystem has already developed multiple games that use those NFTs. Some of the games are pixel art, some of the games are 2D vectors, and then some others are 3D renders and assets. So you can already do with Aavegotchi this multi-content, multi-style gaming. And there's also the Decentraland guys. On their side, their whole system is open source. So a lot of people are already kind of creating their own versions um, of their lands within the Decentraland world. Like to give you an example, the other day we met some guys from, I think it's called Decentral Games, and they completely customized an in-game casino for Decentraland, right? Something you could not do in other Web2 games, right? Not because of the technology itself, like they could give you the access to do it. It's more about the philosophy. They're not open systems, right? So that's where we are right now, and it's already happening. It's going to take some time for it to be like fully, let's say, integrated across the board, and looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, one of the things that pisses me off, and you said it, I gotta be patient. That's not one of my qualities. I'm working on it, I promise. But is I've been playing around with Fortnite Creator, and one of the things is creating there is that I'm stuck in there, and the things I'm creating could be all over. They could live in the central land, they could live everywhere, and that pisses me off because I feel like I'm wasting my time, and making it for every platform is just painful, dude. It's
Mm-hmm.
just painful and so much time wasted. So I cannot wait for this. I think it's going to be a really real beautiful opportunity for me as a creator. And so it connects with the next question we have, which is content creation and user generated content, and how these advancements in content creation tools, platforms empowering users to create their own worlds in the metaverse, their own assets, and everything like that. And I know this deeply connects with what we're doing at DEGA, and that's why I'm here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So let me know, like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, we at DEGA have talked multiple times about what we defined as gaming ecosystem organizations, right? So all of these systems, these entities are the ones that bring life into a game, right? Like, I'm sure everybody here, most of the games that you play, when they release, they explode and then they die a slow death, right? So why is Roblox different? Why is Fortnite different, right? Why are other games, continuously living, extending far more than what other games, while other games die in like a few months or a year or a few years, why are certain games outlasting? And the reason for that is all of these ecosystems that they built around themselves, right? You have esports teams, you have third-party skin creators, you have third-party developers building on their systems, you have a whole bunch of unlimited kind of extensions, right? User-generated content from the community, right? And the thing right now in Web2 is that they're being neglected, right? They have limited options for monetizations, limited options for the IP that they can place there, and a whole bunch of stuff. Like the other day, I was hearing that Minecraft doesn't allow you to now to be able to replicate things that exist in the real world in Minecraft, right? So they're shutting down massive maps where people have rebuilt palaces and museums from the real world. So, that's kind of like you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. Like you're stopping your own community from maximizing their contributions to your platform, right? And this is kind of like where because a lot of people are like, well, we don't need Web3. It's Web2 is fine. Gaming is fine. No, it's not fine at all, right? It's been growing consistently because it's inevitable. We're all heading towards a digital universe in that sense. But there's so many limitations in terms of what you can build, what you can monetize, and how you can extend and contribute. So you are actually coming to these multi-billion-dollar companies. You're saying, hey, I want to make your stuff better, right? Or I want to contribute my own version of your stuff. And it's fine if you want to make money out of it, but let me express myself as much as I want. And they're saying, nope, these are your guidelines. This is what you can do. So that's kind of like where we are right now in user generated content. So that's why I see Web3 systems, which are far more open, which are specifically created with openness in mind, right? Like you can say what you will about all of our colleagues, right? In the sense that many of them haven't reached the level of growth that they would like to, but they're all building out in an open sense, right? It's all about enabling anybody to access and contribute and build on their systems. So that's kind of like my perspective right now on user generated content. It's like very limited so far, and we're going to head towards a stage in which it's going to be unbounded once Web3 really takes place.
If you want to change the world, if you want to change your life, just open the door to creators, builders, and makers, and you will see it happen. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so the last one, we have no questions. So because I would jump into our community questions, but there are no questions, which means that you're explaining things really well. I hope. And the last one is talking about social and collaborative technologies. So the technologies that are enabling social in this world is not going to be about swipe, swipe, swipe. It's going to be different. So how do you see the social interaction evolving in this?
Social interactions involving in what particularly?
Metaverse Web3.
At the end of the day, it's all going
Yeah.
to be about people, right? I think that that's what we kind of forget sometimes. And even I forget it, and I need to constantly remind myself everything is about people, right? Everything is about people. So when you make products, when you make experiences, you got to remember that it's about people connecting with other people. Content is just a projection of that, like it's a medium to do that. And you know, it's still pretty much an open question, like what's going to be the equivalent of an Instagram that leverages all of the technologies that we just discussed, right? Like what's going to be an Instagram that leverages blockchain, AI, and Web3, right? And the thing is, why we're struggling with it is because all of us engineers and even some of the product people, they're like, designing the product around AI, designing the product around VR, designing the product around blockchain. And again, that doesn't matter. Those things are only needed as they are mediums for the human experience and interaction to take place, right? So think about if anybody out there is like wants to build or create the new Instagram of, let's say, the metaverse. Um, think about the interaction that you want to enable, right? Fall in love kind of like with the problem, right? Like this is a friction right now, and this is the interaction that I want to enable. And then think about the technologies that you can pull in to enable that, right? But right now, thanks to like things like the hype and the way that venture capital has basically become kind of like a gambling, like a casino. So everything's about narrative for the investors, right? So people are like grabbing AI and then jumping. And it's like, now we got to do something with AI. And you're like, what? Nothing. It doesn't matter. Just something with AI. Like I've literally heard teams say this, right? And you're like, oh, now we got to do something with Apple Spatial OS. But what? No, I don't know, and I don't care. Just do something with Spatial OS, right? Um, because that's what everybody wants to do right now, and that's what will get us money from investors. So that's kind of like makes it harder to make real products, right? It makes it easier to fundraise, but harder to make real products, right? And that's why that's kind of like my perspective right now in that sense. And what those experiences will be, who knows, right? We'll see them until we see them, right? We don't exactly know where that's headed.
I was muted, damn it. It's kind of like when your team, like my team is Del Nacional, made it to the final. Everyone went and did T-shirts and everything to sell to the final, but that's one-time occasion, and it's taking advantage of that, which is okay, but is not building to last. Something like that. I felt it, or that's the picture that came to my head, Carlos. But we're coming to an end. But I do want to invite you. You should come to our Freaky Fridays, bro. I know you have a busy schedule, but it's
Mm-hmm.
fun, and and that's what's next here. So I don't know if you want to say anything to close your remarks, or we should call it off and get onto our Freaky Friday fun.
Well, right now, just invite everybody to take part in the Polkadot ISPO that we're releasing. This is the very first ISPO ever in the dot ecosystem, and also help us by spreading the word, right? This is the best way to support the vision that we have at DEGA, right? And the best way also to get access to DEGA tokens and use that to grow and begin your adventure with us, right? By upgrading the DEGA NFTs, right? Like if you all, anybody that has seen the blog post on what we've done in Cardano, basically we are giving away well, we're opening up the premium pass purchase. And with that, by taking part in the ISPO, you kind of get to level up the NFT that you will eventually have when we do the reveal and the mint for them. So that's kind of like my final remark. Help us out on that side and stay tuned next week, which will be very, very dot heavy on the ISPO side of things in terms of providing the details, how it'll work, tutorials, more blog posts from the Rabbit. So it's going to be a very exciting week that we have ahead.
It's already exciting on this side what the things we've been working on, but this is history in the making, Carlos. This is now the first multi-chain ISVO.
Mm-hmm.
It's historic. You know how exciting I am about this and about making things that can change the game for a lot of people, and taking the ISVO models also opens a lot of opportunities for people that are building solutions, people that are building on Web3. So
Yep.
it's an amazing history.
Yep.
So
That's right.
yeah, let let's just invite everyone to follow us in our socials. Bring your friends, bring the people that you know will benefit for what we're building, and help us build it, because we need you. We cannot do this alone. We cannot do this without you. You are the tribe, you are the tribes, and this is why we're doing it. It's for you. As Carlos said, yeah, we could be tech oriented or whatever, but we're you oriented. So we need you to build for you. So let's come to the Freaky Fridays in our Discord. Let's have fun. Let's play. Let's listen to some crazy music. Let's meet the faces behind all of this. And I will see you there. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much, everyone. I will leave you with one of the finalist songs, and I think is Rabbit's favorite DEGA song. It's called DEGA Explorers. So I will see you over the Discord. And thank you. Bye bye, Carlos. It was great. I learned a lot, by the way. So thanks.
Cool. Happy to do so, man. Happy to be here and looking forward to Monday. See you guys and stay
See ya.
tuned.